How often do we stop to consider the profound power of our words? In a world consumed by noise and distraction, there are phrases, simple yet rare, that cut through the chaos and resonate deeply with the human spirit. For men, there's something extraordinary about hearing words that affirm, uplift, and acknowledge their essence. These are not the cliched platitudes of casual interactions, but expressions that strike a chord at the core of their identity, their struggle, and their potential. The tragedy is that so few women ever utter these transformative words, and the ones who do often find themselves holding a unique place in the hearts of those who hear them. Understanding the emotional landscape of men requires us to venture into a terrain often overlooked or misunderstood in modern discourse. This is not a call to pity or an invitation to ignore responsibility, but rather an effort to recognize the humanity beneath the exterior. Men, like all people, are complex beings who carry their vulnerabilities with them, often silently as they navigate the expectations and pressures of the world. They may not always articulate their emotional needs, but that does not make those needs any less real. To understand this inner world is to see a truth that society often obscures. Men yearn for recognition, affirmation, and validation in ways that go far beyond the material or superficial. There is a deep and often unspoken longing within men to be acknowledged for their efforts, sacrifices, and the weight they carry. It's not that men are seeking constant praise or indulgence. They are not asking to be absolved of accountability. Rather, they seek a recognition that says, "I see you. I see the burden you bear, and it matters." This is not a luxury for them, it's a necessity. For a man, to feel unseen or unappreciated is to risk falling into a state of disconnection, not only from others, but from himself. Without affirmation, the work he does, the goals he strives toward, and even the relationships he values can lose their meaning. Men live in a world that often demands stoicism, strength, and a relentless forward motion. They are taught, sometimes explicitly, sometimes implicitly, that vulnerability is weakness and that their value lies in what they can produce or achieve. This creates an emotional paradox. On one hand, they are expected to succeed, to build, to provide, and to protect. On the other hand, they are rarely given space to acknowledge the toll this takes or the emotional reserves it depletes. It's not that men lack emotions. It's that their emotions are often pushed into the background, forced to take a back seat to the expectations placed upon them. When a man hears words that affirm his worth not for his accomplishments, but for who he is, it has the power to pierce through years of societal conditioning. These words are not about flattery. They are about truth. To say to a man, "I see your effort, and it is enough," or "I admire your strength, even when you're uncertain," is to offer him something he may not even realize he's been craving. It is to give him permission to embrace his humanity in a world that so often denies it. And here lies the profound beauty. When a man feels seen in this way, he doesn't retreat into complacency. Instead, he is inspired to rise, to strive, to become better, not because he's being forced to, but because he has been reminded of his intrinsic worth. The challenge is that these words are rare. They are rare because our culture has made them so. For many women, expressing this kind of acknowledgement can feel counterintuitive or even risky. They may fear that it will be misunderstood, taken for weakness, or lead to dependency. But the truth is quite the opposite. To offer genuine affirmation is not a concession, it is a gift of strength. It is an act of courage, of generosity, and of profound emotional intelligence. And for men, it is transformative. A man who hears these words often begins to view the world differently. He becomes more open, more willing to share his struggles and vulnerabilities, because he no longer feels the need to hide them behind a mask of invulnerability. He becomes more attuned to the emotional needs of others, recognizing the power of validation because he has experienced it himself. And he becomes more connected not just to the person who spoke the words, but to a deeper sense of purpose and identity. This is why understanding the emotional landscape of men matters. It's not about catering to ego or perpetuating outdated gender norms. It's about recognizing the humanity that exists within all of us and finding ways to bridge the gaps in understanding that divide us. Men and women are not as different as we often make them out to be. Both seek connection, meaning, and the courage to face life's challenges with dignity and resilience. But to get there, we must first be willing to see each other clearly and to speak the words that bring us closer together. For the women who dare to be part of that rare 1%, who choose to see and affirm the men in their lives with sincerity and courage, the rewards are immeasurable. You are not simply offering kindness, you are creating a space for transformation. You are inviting the men in your life to step into their full humanity, to embrace their potential, and to rise above the weight of the world's expectations. And in doing so, you are not only empowering them, you are empowering yourself. This is the power of affirmation. It is a power that can change lives, strengthen relationships, and build a foundation of mutual respect and understanding that endures. The question of why only a rare few find the courage to speak words that resonate deeply with men is not merely one of communication, it is a matter of human understanding. To address this, we must confront the layers of fear, misunderstanding, and societal conditioning that often prevent such exchanges from taking place. Men and women have long misunderstood one another, not because they are incapable of empathy, but because they have been shaped by narratives that prioritize separation over unity. These narratives have robbed both of something essential: the ability to see each other clearly and to offer the kind of connection that elevates rather than diminishes. For many women, there is an instinct to hold back from speaking affirming words to men, an instinct rooted not in malice but in caution. They worry about giving too much, about being seen as weak, or about feeding into a dynamic where their voices are overshadowed. These fears are not unfounded. They are born from real experiences in a world that often places women in precarious positions. But to withhold recognition is to misunderstand its power. Affirming a man is not about placing oneself beneath him, it is about meeting him as an equal and offering a truth that both can stand upon. To say to a man, "I admire your strength," or "your efforts inspire me," is not to diminish your own strength. It is not to suggest that his worth surpasses yours. On the contrary, it is to offer a gift that acknowledges shared humanity. Such words are rare not because they are impossible, but because they require a leap of faith. They demand vulnerability, not the kind that leaves one defenseless, but the kind that allows for real connection. And that connection, when forged, can transform not just the man who receives it, but the woman who offers it. Imagine a man who has spent his life carrying the silent burden of expectations. He has been told, directly or indirectly, that his worth is tied to what he achieves, to how much he provides, or to the strength he projects. He has rarely, if ever, been told that his efforts are enough or that his presence alone has value. For such a man, even a single moment of recognition can shift his perspective. To hear, "I see you and what you do matters," is to be given permission to exhale after years of holding his breath. It is to be reminded that his struggles are not invisible and that his existence has meaning beyond utility. This kind of recognition is not about inflating ego or encouraging complacency. It is about acknowledging that beneath the surface of every man is a human being who longs to be seen. The irony is that when a man feels truly seen, he is not tempted to stop striving. He is inspired to strive even more. Validation does not weaken his resolve, it strengthens it. It reminds him that his efforts are not in vain, and that his presence is valued in ways he may not have allowed himself to believe. But why, then, do so few women offer this recognition? Part of the answer lies in fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of being taken for granted, fear of losing one's own sense of worth in the process. These fears are valid, but they are also bridges waiting to be crossed. To offer affirmation is not to lose oneself, it is to claim a deeper understanding of one's own power. It is to recognize that the ability to uplift another does not diminish you, it elevates both. And in the act of elevating another, you create a space where mutual respect and growth can flourish. For women, the choice to offer such words is an act of courage. It requires stepping outside the narratives that have long defined relationships and choosing to see men not as adversaries or enigmas, but as human beings with their own complexities. This choice is not easy, but it is necessary. And for those who make it, the rewards are profound. You are not simply offering kindness, you are creating a dynamic that allows for honesty, vulnerability, and real connection. For men, the impact of such recognition cannot be overstated. To hear words of affirmation is to be reminded of what is often forgotten in the daily grind of life, that their worth is not solely tied to what they do, but to who they are. It is to be given a moment of clarity in a world that so often obscures it. And in that moment, they are not only seen, they are empowered to step into their full potential, to embrace their humanity, and to connect with others in ways that are genuine and lasting. The beauty of this dynamic is that it is not one-sided. When men feel affirmed, they become more open, more empathetic, and more willing to reciprocate. They begin to see the women in their lives not as expectations to be met or puzzles to be solved, but as equals with their own strengths and vulnerabilities. This creates a foundation of mutual respect and understanding that goes far beyond the surface level. It is a foundation that allows both to grow, to thrive, and to face the challenges of life with a shared sense of purpose. And the power of affirmation lies not in its rarity, but in its authenticity. To offer it is to take a step toward bridging the gaps that divide us, and to create a space where both men and women can be seen for who they truly are. This is not an easy path, but it is a path worth walking. It is a path that leads to connection, to understanding, and to a shared humanity that has the power to transform lives. The relationship between what is spoken and the effect it has on the human soul is one of the most profound mysteries of our existence. When we think about why certain words remain unsaid, particularly the ones that resonate deeply with the hearts of men, we are forced to confront a labyrinth of social, cultural, and psychological barriers. These barriers do not emerge randomly. They are born of experience, shaped by fear, and perpetuated by a lack of understanding about the transformative power of language. To truly grasp this, we must delve into the essence of what it means to communicate in a way that transcends the mundane and reaches the sacred. Imagine for a moment the vulnerability required to utter words that reveal your innermost thoughts, especially when directed towards someone who holds significance in your life. It is not simply a matter of speaking. It is an act of exposing your soul. To tell a man, "I believe in you," or "your strength inspires me," requires courage because such words strip away pretense. They create an open space where truth resides, and in doing so, they risk rejection, misinterpretation, or indifference. Yet paradoxically, it is precisely this risk that makes these words so powerful. They carry weight because they emerge from a place of authenticity, and it is authenticity that human beings crave most deeply in their interactions. For men who are often socialized to suppress vulnerability and prioritize external achievements, the absence of affirmation can feel like an unspoken void. From an early age, boys are taught to equate their worth with their capacity to perform, to produce, and to protect. While these traits are valuable, they are incomplete. They address the functional aspects of existence but neglect the emotional and spiritual dimensions. Without acknowledgement of these deeper facets, a man can begin to feel like a cog in a machine rather than a living, breathing individual with his own hopes, fears, and aspirations. When a woman steps forward and offers words of genuine affirmation to a man, it is as though she is handing him a lifeline reminder that he is more than the roles he fulfills. But here's the nuance. The impact of those words depends entirely on their sincerity. Men, like all people, possess an innate ability to discern between empty flattery and heartfelt recognition. The former is dismissible, even insulting, because it implies a lack of understanding or respect. The latter is transformative. It tells a man that he is not invisible, that his efforts have not gone unnoticed, and that his presence has value beyond utility. The rarity of such affirmations is not a reflection of their insignificance, but of the complexity involved in offering them. To affirm someone authentically requires more than observation. It requires empathy. It demands that you see the other person not as a collection of attributes or a sum of actions, but as a whole being, complete with flaws and virtues. It is a form of recognition that transcends judgment and enters the realm of grace, and in doing so, it creates a ripple effect. A man who feels seen and valued is more likely to extend that recognition to others, creating a cycle of mutual respect and understanding. But why is this so difficult for many women to do? The answer lies partly in the fear of vulnerability, and partly in the cultural scripts that have shaped their expectations of relationships. To affirm a man, especially in a society that often pits genders against each other, can feel like relinquishing power or conceding ground. Yet this perspective misunderstands the nature of true power. Affirmation is not about subjugation, it is about elevation. It is about recognizing the humanity in another and, in doing so, strengthening your own. The act of affirming does not diminish the giver, it enriches them. Consider the profound effect such words can have on the trajectory of a relationship. When a man hears, "You matter to me," or "I appreciate what you bring into my life," he is not merely receiving validation. He is experiencing a moment of connection that transcends the transactional. In that moment, the walls of defensiveness and self-doubt begin to crumble, and he is reminded of his intrinsic worth. This is not to say that men are incapable of finding worth within themselves. Many do. But external acknowledgment serves as a catalyst, reinforcing the belief that their internal efforts are mirrored in the external world. For the woman who offers these words, the act is equally transformative. It requires her to step into a space of emotional courage and to acknowledge the significance of her role in shaping the relational dynamic. In offering affirmation, she becomes an active participant in the creation of a bond that is rooted in mutual respect and understanding. This act is not about diminishing herself, but about engaging in a form of communication that uplifts both parties. It is a reminder that relationships thrive not on power struggles, but on the willingness to see and be seen. The power of affirmation lies in its ability to bridge the gap between isolation and connection. In a world where so many feel unseen and unheard, a simple acknowledgement can serve as a beacon of hope. It tells the recipient, "You are not alone. Your efforts matter. Your existence has meaning." And in a society that often values the superficial over the substantial, this kind of recognition is both revolutionary and necessary. The challenge, then, is to embrace the discomfort that often accompanies such expressions and to move beyond the fear of vulnerability. To speak words of affirmation is to take a step toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and others. It is to engage in a form of communication that is not merely about transmitting information, but about creating connection. And in that connection, we find the essence of what it means to be human. The act of communication, especially within the realm of relationships, is not merely about conveying information. It is about shaping reality itself. Words have power. They have the ability to elevate, to clarify, to heal, and to inspire. Yet, when those words are absent, when what ought to be said remains unsaid, there emerges a void. It is a silence that does not foster peace, but instead breeds confusion, resentment, and ultimately, a deep sense of alienation. This silence is particularly damaging in the dynamics between men and women, where the potential for meaningful affirmation is so often overshadowed by fear, hesitation, or misunderstanding. To understand this, we must first grasp the psychological weight that men carry in their pursuit of purpose and recognition. Men are, by nature and nurture, driven to achieve, to protect, and to provide. These roles are not arbitrary. They are deeply embedded in the fabric of their being. Yet these pursuits often come at a cost, an internal battle waged against doubt, fatigue, and the relentless pressures of external expectations. When a man puts his energy into building a life, creating stability, or striving toward a goal, he is not simply performing tasks. He is affirming his worth in a world that rarely offers unconditional validation. In this context, the absence of meaningful acknowledgement can be devastating. When a man invests himself fully in his roles, yet hears nothing of substance in return, It can feel as though his efforts are invisible or, worse, insignificant. This is not merely a personal grievance. It strikes at the core of what motivates human action. People thrive when their contributions are recognized, not through grand gestures or superficial praise, but through genuine expressions of gratitude and respect. And this is where words matter so profoundly. A simple statement and authentic acknowledgement has the power to counter the weight of doubt and to breathe life into weary spirits. But what prevents this from happening? Why is it so difficult for many women to offer such affirmations to the men in their lives? Part of the answer lies in cultural conditioning. In many societies, there is a reluctance to openly express vulnerability, especially in matters of the heart. For women, this reluctance is often compounded by the fear of appearing overly dependent or by the mistaken belief that acknowledgement diminishes their own strength. Yet this fear is misguided. True strength lies not in withholding praise, but in offering it freely and sincerely. It takes courage to see someone clearly and to articulate what you see. To tell a man that he is appreciated, that his efforts are noticed, or that his presence is meaningful requires stepping outside the self and into the realm of empathy. It demands that you set aside assumptions, judgments, and distractions to truly engage with another person's reality. And in doing so, you create a connection that transcends the transactional and enters the realm of the sacred. You affirm not just the man, but the relationship itself. This act of affirmation is not a one-sided gift. It is a reciprocal exchange that enriches both parties. For the woman who offers these words, it is an opportunity to step into a space of emotional courage and to exercise her own capacity for generosity and insight. In recognizing the worth of another, she reinforces her own ability to see and appreciate the complexities of human nature. This, in turn, deepens her own sense of self-awareness and fulfillment. For the man who receives such acknowledgement, the impact is profound. It is not merely a boost to his ego or a validation of his achievements. It is a reminder of his intrinsic value. It tells him that his efforts, though sometimes unnoticed by the world at large, are seen and appreciated by someone who matters. This kind of affirmation creates a ripple effect. A man who feels valued is more likely to act with confidence, compassion, and generosity. He is more likely to give back, to contribute, and to engage in meaningful ways. Yet the rarity of such moments cannot be ignored. In a culture that often prioritizes criticism over celebration and skepticism over trust, the simple act of affirmation can feel like a revolutionary gesture. But it is precisely this rarity that makes it so powerful. When words of acknowledgement are spoken, they cut through the noise of doubt and distraction, creating a moment of clarity and connection that lingers far beyond the moment itself. And the power of affirmation lies in its ability to bridge the gap between isolation and intimacy. It reminds us that we are not alone in our struggles, that our efforts matter, and that our existence is meaningful. It is a gift that costs nothing but offers everything, a reminder of the transformative power of seeing, speaking, and connecting. And in a world that so often feels fragmented and impersonal, this kind of connection is not just valuable, it is essential. The dynamic between men and women is deeply rooted in a shared but often misunderstood search for meaning, validation, and connection. At the core of this dynamic lies a profound human truth. People long to be seen, to be acknowledged, and to be valued for who they are and what they bring to the table. For men, this need often manifests as a desire for respect, a yearning to know that their efforts, struggles, and triumphs are not in vain. When this respect is absent, it is not just the man who suffers. The relationship itself begins to erode, slowly and inexorably. Respect in its truest form is not something that can be demanded or coerced. It is freely given, born out of a genuine recognition of worth. It is not about flattery or empty words, but about an honest acknowledgement of effort and character. And yet, in so many relationships, this respect is withheld, either through neglect, misunderstanding, or an unwillingness to be vulnerable. The question we must ask is why? Why is it so difficult for women to offer this recognition, even when they know at some level that it could transform their relationships. Part of the answer lies in a broader societal shift that has complicated the traditional understanding of gender roles. As women have rightly sought and achieved greater independence, there has been a tendency to devalue the traditional contributions of men. Providing, protecting, and striving for stability are often seen as outdated or unnecessary in a world that champions self-sufficiency. But these contributions are not relics of a bygone era. They are fundamental to the human experience. When a man dedicates himself to these roles, he is not asserting dominance but expressing love, responsibility, and purpose. To overlook or dismiss these efforts is to ignore a crucial aspect of what it means to build a life together. But respect is not just about acknowledging what a man does. It is about recognizing who he is. It requires looking beyond the surface and seeing the fears, hopes, and aspirations that drive his actions. This kind of recognition demands a level of emotional courage that can be uncomfortable but is ultimately liberating. It requires setting aside cynicism and skepticism and choosing to see the good in someone even when they falter. This does not mean ignoring flaws or excusing bad behavior. It means balancing criticism with compassion, judgment with understanding. When respect is absent, it creates a void that is often filled with resentment, frustration, and disconnection. A man who feels disrespected is unlikely to engage fully in the relationship. He may withdraw, act defensively, or even lash out. This withdrawal is not a sign of apathy, but of pain, a pain that stems from the belief that he is unworthy or invisible. And this pain is not confined to the man. It reverberates through the relationship, creating a cycle of misunderstanding and alienation that can be difficult to break. But when respect is present, it has the power to transform not just the man, but the relationship itself. Respect fosters trust, and trust lays the foundation for intimacy. It allows both partners to be vulnerable, to share their fears and dreams without fear of judgment. It creates a space where growth is possible both as individuals and as a couple. And this growth is not just about achieving harmony, it is about building a partnership that is resilient, dynamic, and deeply fulfilling. Respect also challenges the person giving it. To respect someone deeply is to hold them to a standard not as a means of control but as an expression of belief in their potential. It means saying, "I see what you are capable of, and I trust you to rise to the occasion." This kind of respect is not passive. It is active, engaging, and at times demanding. But it is also profoundly rewarding. It creates a sense of partnership that goes beyond mere coexistence and moves toward collaboration, understanding, and mutual growth. Respect is not just a gift you give to someone else, it is a gift you give to yourself. By choosing to see the best in another person, you cultivate the capacity to see the best in yourself. You break free from the limitations of cynicism and fear, and open yourself to the possibility of connection, growth, and love. And in a world that often feels fragmented and disconnected, this kind of connection is not just valuable, it is essential. It reminds us of our shared humanity and of the incredible potential that lies within us all. Understanding the interplay of words and emotions, especially in the intimate dance of relationships, is one of the most profound challenges and opportunities we face as human beings. There is a powerful truth that many fail to grasp. The right words, spoken with authenticity and conviction, can bridge even the deepest divides. Conversely, the absence of these words can create chasms so vast that even the most genuine intentions cannot cross them. For men, there exists a particular set of words that resonate deeply within their souls, a language that speaks directly to their need for validation, respect, and acknowledgement. When these words are absent, something vital within them begins to wither, and the effects ripple outward, impacting relationships in ways that are often misunderstood or overlooked. At the core of this lies a simple but profound reality. Men are not as impervious as they might seem. Beneath the veneer of strength, logic, and stoicism lies a deeply human need to feel valued. This value is not rooted solely in grand achievements or external accolades. It is grounded in something far more personal. It is the acknowledgment of who they are, their character, their efforts, and their intentions. It is a recognition that despite their imperfections, they are striving to contribute, protect, and build something meaningful. When a woman communicates this recognition, when she expresses, with sincerity, that she sees and values these efforts, it does something extraordinary. It affirms a man's place in the world, reinforcing his sense of purpose and igniting a drive that benefits not only him but the relationship as a whole. But here lies the paradox. These words, so simple in theory, are often withheld in practice. Why? Partly it is because of a pervasive cultural misunderstanding of masculinity. In some circles, there is an assumption that men do not need such affirmations, that they are self-sufficient islands capable of thriving without emotional sustenance. Yet, this could not be further from the truth. Men, like all human beings, require connection and validation. Their strength is not an absence of vulnerability, but a capacity to bear it. To deny this is to deny their humanity and, in doing so, to diminish the potential for true connection. Another barrier to offering these affirmations is fear of vulnerability, fear of imbalance, fear of giving too much. It is a fear rooted in the misconception that offering words of encouragement or respect is an act of submission, a relinquishment of power. But in truth, it is an act of profound strength. To speak words that uplift and inspire requires courage. It requires seeing beyond one's insecurities and doubts and choosing instead to invest in the potential of another. It is not an act of weakness but of partnership, a recognition that by lifting someone else we elevate the relationship itself. The impact of withholding these words is often underestimated. A man who feels unappreciated or unseen begins to question his value. This questioning is not always overt. It often manifests in subtle ways: withdrawal, defensiveness, or even a growing sense of apathy. These behaviors are not a reflection of who he is at his core, but a response to a deep, unmet need. And while it might be tempting to dismiss these reactions as mere sensitivity, doing so misses the point entirely. They are not signs of fragility, but of humanity, a testament to the fact that even the strongest among us are shaped by the connections we hold most dear. Conversely, when these words are spoken, when a woman expresses respect, admiration, and belief in her partner, it creates a powerful shift. It is not about flattery or manipulation, but about authenticity. It is about saying, "I see you, I value you, and I believe in what you are striving to achieve." These words, spoken with genuine intent, act as a catalyst for growth. They inspire confidence, fuel ambition, and create a foundation of trust that allows the relationship to flourish. This is not to say that words alone are enough. They must be matched by actions, by a consistent effort to build and nurture the relationship. But words are the starting point, the bridge that allows two individuals to connect on a deeper level. They are the reminder that despite the challenges and complexities of life, we are not alone. We are seen, valued, and supported. In the end, this is not just about men or women. It is about the human need for connection. It is about recognizing that we all long to feel valued, and that the simplest expressions of respect and appreciation can have a profound impact. It is about understanding that our words have power, the power to heal, inspire, and transform. And it is about choosing to use that power wisely, not as a tool for control or manipulation, but as a means of building something greater than ourselves.